Okay, folks, so today we have a new top 5, and we're going to be looking at the controversial topics related to GNU Linux or just Linux, and of course, any project, especially a project as large as the Linux kernel, isn't going to go without having controversies of its own. So let's take a look at some of these. Top 5, coming in at number 5, systemd integration. So we all know that systemd has come, and whether you love or whether you hate systemd, it really has, of course, sparked so many debates in the Linux world about does it encroach on Unix's philosophy. And of course, if you don't know what that is, Unix's philosophy believes that if a piece of software or an application should do one thing only, and it should do it well. Now, systemd, of course, has in recent times it's unified a lot of different services and has, as somebody can improve efficiency when it comes to starting up your workstation. However, what grew initially as just an init system, starting up various services when your machine starts up, has gone into a whole array of different software packages where folks feel like systemd is basically taking over. These days, systemd can do everything from some user home management folders to being a bootloader to managing networking, amongst other things. So definitely a big topic, and there's no short of distributions that are proudly systemd free. Number 4, of course, can only be proprietary software. So we're talking about software or drivers that are not rooted in open source philosophy. So what do I mean about that? Well, of course, Linux and the open source philosophy is, of course, all about in having access to the root of the software or to the software sources, and to have the ability to change it and share those changes amongst others. Right, now, I'm not going to go get into the whole free as in free access versus free as in a free beer, but a lot of folks believe that if you look at that from a pure philosophical point of view, Linux shouldn't have additional closed source applications. So what I'm talking about is Linux has become more popular over the years. There's been additional drivers, proprietary blobs that have been inserted, which have been, whether one wants to admit or not, needed in order for a lot of bits of hardware to function. And of course, other loads of bits of software that have come out, some of them are, well, proprietary. You can't access the source of it, and it just runs on Linux as if it was another software system. So yeah, a bit of a debate going on there, but be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments. Number 3. Yes. The great desktop wars. So, what are the desktop wars? Do you prefer GNOME or GNOME or KDE or XFCE or i3 or whatever application you're using? Are you using maybe one of the tiling managers out of many of them? Right? Each of these is always a contention for Linux users, and all of these have such loyal followers that the debates about it go over design philosophies, resource consumptions. It's a hot topic, and in recent times, of course, with the changes of some of these environments, some folks have changed from system to system or from KDE to others, or some folks will tell you why tiling is better than any other manager, type of manager, should I say. These are really as strong as trying to choose a distro. So yeah, desktop wars, it's real. The fight's out there. Some of it, of course, also Linux kernel development and governance. So some people don't always like the way how the Linux kernel development process and leadership style is handled. Right, that's a completely and utterly very interesting topic. But of course, there's also fears from folks about What about corporate interests? It's no unknown these days that large corporations are some of the top, if not the top contributors to Linux kernel development. So some folks are worried out there, how much influence do these companies actually have when it comes to the Linux kernel and everything around it? So really, really, really interesting. Can we be sure that all those patches and everything added is for the best interest of the user or for the corporation? And then, of course, coming in at number one, if you haven't thought enough about your Linux interface, your systemd, init system, or whether proprietary software should be included, or of course, if you aren't tired yet from talking about whether companies should contribute to Linux or not, well, what is the biggest argument every single Linux user usually does? Not everyone, obviously. What Linux distribution should you use? Does the fact that we have hundreds, probably thousands at this point, of Linux distribution, does it not dilute the platform strength? Are we not creating unnecessary complexity? Or is it testament to how flexible Linux is and the freedom it offers to us as users and developers? Do we really need how many distributions that are based on Debian and Ubuntu, right? Is there a massive difference between using something like the Linux Mint and Debian or using something like Ubuntu Linux Mint? Or do we really need something like all the different versions of Arch distributions that are out there that I'm sure are nearing the hundreds, right? Are these strengths or these weaknesses? Would things be better if we combined them together? Leave your comments below and let us know. As always, folks, I'm going to say thanks for watching. And as always, bye for now.